Thank you, Marlene. Yeah, so just a quick agenda. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We do have some SAM team updates and staff transitions that we want to talk about. And let me turn off this transcription, otherwise I'm going to be staring at myself talking. With that, or along those lines, then we want to talk a little bit more about the SAM general email address and why it's going to be even more important to use during this transition time. And then we're going to jump into the SAM manual revisions and the updated SAM manual. What was changed? What are your questions? The listserv announcement went out about 2 or 3 weeks ago about the manual updates, and just wanted to see if you guys had an opportunity to check out those updates. A quick recap on the RFI training, a quick discussion on RFI triage that we did kind of earlier this week, and then a touch base on coordination requests with IDEM, a brief discussion and best practices. And again, please, ask questions, interact throughout this. It makes it a lot much more fun and meaningful. So first up, our SAM staff transitions. So, we are very happy for Marlene that she is transitioning to part-time. She's been working with INDOT for 10 years of service, and we just want to say thank you for working here at INDOT and doing everything you have done. So Marlene is transitioning into part-time. The effective date will be Monday, January 10th. And right now her work schedule, and I'll let her talk about that too here in a minute, is likely to be Monday and Tuesdays. But I would say just keep an eye out for Marlene's signature block on her email. So all of us have our office hours, or our core office hours on our email signature block. So just keep an eye out for that around the beginning of January, mid-January, and see if she's kind of changed anything on her end of when she will have those main days. But yes, we all would say congratulations. I put flowers on here because Marlene is an avid gardener, and we just hope that this opens up more time to garden, but also obviously she will still be with us and still be providing excellent service, and so we are very, very thankful that she's staying. But Marlene, did you want to say anything about your transition?
I'll try not to tear up here. The last 10 years we've made a lot of changes, and this has been a wonderful job. I've really enjoyed this job. I mean, not that it hasn't come with its frustrations, of course, but it's been challenging, and the people I work with are professional, and I've just enjoyed getting to know all of you. And of course, I always really appreciate Ron Bales and Nicole and Chad that's on our team now, and I'll still be here, and right now it'll be Monday and Tuesdays, and I don't know how long I'm going to work part-time. If you start seeing me at your local farmers markets selling flowers, then you'll know that my time here is getting shorter and shorter. So that's my goal. So anyway, like I said, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everything that I've experienced here, and it's been a great experience. So thanks.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And, I think we just can't say enough. We're very happy for you and happy that you're staying to help out still, because I know Chad and I would be panicking. So we appreciate that. But with that, to segue into how, as we make this transition, it will be even more important for everyone to continue to use our general SAM inbox. So, with Marlene's hours and days changing, sending her an email directly will probably result in a delay of getting information. So just, make sure to be very conscious about using our general SAM inbox. going forward, you know, really passing on that information to your coworkers and other people that work with SAM about the importance of that as well. And yeah, so we started on the good news. So we will obviously continue to provide updates on transition items or any changes with virtual chats. So, but if anything comes up, you know, please let us know. And we're very happy for Marlene. It's awesome. So just a reminder on that general inbox, you know, it really helps Sam manage our workflow. Please make sure that general questions, initial submissions of red flags, limited RFIs, addendum requests and addendums, scope of work phase twos, all go to that general inbox. And once a document has been reviewed, we just kind of want to, you know, 90% of you have gotten into this routine really well. But if you have a reviewer that has been assigned to your document, please make sure that you're sending your revised document directly to that reviewer. You know, you don't want to send that back to the ESC inbox, because while we take turns checking that inbox, and I'll be kind of more myself and Chad now checking that inbox, we do it every other day or every few days as we can with the other workload and items. So if you have a reviewer that has reviewed your document and you're working directly with them, just email them directly. Oh, a question just came up about ERMs. I saw ERMs. No ERMs. You know, SAM does ProjectWise. So we transfer documents through ProjectWise links. And that is our main method. We also have that guidance in our SAM manual. So if you have any questions, like if it's been a few days since you've submitted a red flag or a few weeks and you're not sure of the process, please go to our SAM manual. We have the cutout from this screenshot in the SAM manual with guidance on submitting the ProjectWise link. So we should send the phase two that are completed and ready for initial review to the reviewer that reviewed the scope of work. No, so send the phase two. So I think what Sarah is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, is that like I reviewed a scope of work for a specific project, and you went out, you drilled, you took your samples, and now you prepared your phase two and you're submitting it to SAM to go into our review queue. You want to send that to the SAM inbox, because that will then, whoever's keeping an eye on the inbox will log that document and send it to the correct person. So initial submissions, anything that's the first submission that you are submitting to SAM should go to the general inbox. Now, once I get a hold of that phase two and I revise it or review it and I send it back, the revisions would come right back to me, or those communications would come right back to me. But until then, keep it in the general inbox. And that really helps our flow of work, especially through kind of this transition time too. And Sarah, let me know if I answer that fully or if you have any other follow-up. Oh, awesome, okay. And then April, so you want the second draft sent? Yes, so anytime you are sending a document to SAM, we want the ProjectWise link. We want it into ProjectWise, because what happens is, what has previously happened is large document files have been attached to emails to where they've been in multiple files, or we're breaking them up, or we're doing file sharing platforms across from various, you know, each consultant has a different file sharing platform. And it adds a lot of complexity that's not needed, because we have ProjectWise, where you can upload the document and send us the link, and then we can go in and access it. And it just is really streamlined things. So hopefully that helps out. Okay, good deal. So any other questions, you know, feel free to ask. And let me know if I'm getting a lot of feedback in my headphone. But we've had this flow chart on a couple other of these virtual chats, but just wanted to provide it up here to follow up with our discussion about, you have that RFI is right to submit, you upload it to ProjectWise, you send it to our general inbox, and our policy. We did update this slide to include for project managers. So if your consultant is reaching out to you for an expedited review, please send that expedited review request to the SAM box as well. That just really helps out and, make sure that we're, I think somebody's phone is ringing, if you don't mind muting. I tried to find you, but I can't really find the mute button on that. But so the IDEM PM would need to send that request email to the ESD.SAM inbox as well. And that just, again, helps streamload the information coming in that we are looking at. Any other questions about the SAM inbox or anything like that? Links to documents. Where do the links link to? I think so. Lisa, let me know if I'm not understanding this correctly. So yes, when you send us a link to your document, to your red flag, then oh no, you're totally fine, Lisa. You're totally fine. Just make sure I'm saying, and okay, here, let's do a quick demo. If I learned anything from the red flag training, it's to wing it sometimes, right? So let's see if I can find a red flag that I could bring up. And I don't know who this is. We'll just, here's a red flag. You've uploaded it into ProjectWise. So here's the red flag. You're going in, you uploaded your document. And what I do is I come up here and I right-click copy. And that whole link gets put into the email that is sent to us. And that email then, that link, when it comes up, it just takes us directly to your report. So it will look something like this. So this is the SAM manual. Again, if you have any questions about kind of submitting those documents, if you're unsure about it, please see the SAM manual. This is page 8. We have details on how to submit them, our general inbox, and here is the link. Here's that ProjectWise link that you just paste into your email and send to us. So, good deal. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it kind of depends on what version of ProjectWise you're using, definitely. So any more questions about submitting documents or anything like that? If not, we'll go ahead and kind of talk about the updated SAM manual. So I was going to try to do one of those fancy polls that Cultural Resources did during their last presentation. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I was going to ask you how many people have been in there and looked at the updated SAM manual. Hopefully everyone has. We encourage you to go in and have a look at it. And kind of our effective date is today for the new templates and the new language that we are using. So just wanted to kind of go through a few of the changes that were made and really reach out to you guys to determine what questions have come up after reviewing the SAM manual. So this is a snippet of our webpage. Again, the SAM manual recently updated. And in general, we added a few things to the text of the SAM manual. The bulk of changes were made to the RFI template and the RFI guidance. So to the SAM manual, we added acronym and abbreviation listing. We updated the website links throughout the document. A few of them were broken. We added process details regarding under drain and pipe work and a replacement, features that aren't mapped in bias. I know we're all getting familiar with those. So we have added details and added procedure and process in place in the SAM manual for those items. We updated section 4.2, which included the recommendation language for the hazmat section. And we added additional information 7.3, which is additional guidance on how to obtain an EPA ID number. Now, I know that's kind of niche for when you're doing certain work, but if you ever do need assistance or a starting place on obtaining an EPA ID number, section 7.3 is definitely the place to go. And we do have some additional guidance coming to the website, probably, you know, Marlene, do you think like 1 to 2 months maybe, with like screenshots of how to go through and request an EPA ID number and that kind of information?
Yeah, we're really close on that, Nicole.
Awesome. We'll say 1 month. So, you know, just wanted to show our acronym and abbreviation list. You know, submitting documents. The SAM manual is the place to go for you know, trying to figure out where to start with red flags and with that guidance. So anyone have any questions about the SAM manual updates or anything they saw recently that they wanted to talk about? We are going to talk about the template and the guidance document here shortly, but just was curious if there was anything from the main manual that anyone had. No? Okay. All right. We'll keep going. So the RFI template was updated. A few of the items, I'm like 99% of you are aware that we've been changing the phone number to the INDOT for you. It's now official. The room number information is now official, but we've already been making those changes. The probably largest thing or the biggest thing you want to make sure that you're doing in the new template is to get a hold of this template, but that the bridge work included in the project and the culvert work has been separated into 2 separate sections because it was getting a little murky depending on if a bridge project was occurring or a culvert project. So hopefully this will kind of help provide some clarification on that. We added a footer to the template. Probably the biggest thing, and we talked about this in the RFI training, but just wanted to hit on it again, is that in the RFI guidance, we used to have language that would be able to be inserted if you potentially had an unmapped resource, an unmapped water resource. And the use of that language was kind of getting a little out of hand where, you know, sometimes a wetland, I'm exaggerating here, but a wetland, you know, 0.4 mile away was triggering a, you know, due to proximity, there could be unmapped resources and we want to do a waters report. And so we've kind of decided that, you know, the language that we had probably isn't the best approach to that. So instead, in the template, we've included a main statement under the table, similar to the hazmat section, that if unmapped water resources are identified that might impact the project area, direct coordination with INDOT, ESD, ecology, and waterway permitting will occur. So that is the template language. So that should show up on every new RFI. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that with the RFI guidance, but you know, just to reiterate, we do have this language regarding the IDEM VFC in our template, and we just want to kind of let you know that the process or the meaning behind that is that so you don't have to reference the VFC in each description item in your text. So, you know, when you get to your state cleanup site, you don't have to reference, oh, this information came from the VFC. It's already covered in that blanket statement underneath the hazmat table. So just to keep that in mind for why that is there, it kind of keeps it from having to be mentioned over and over again. And then the ecology section, this is just more of a formality. 99% of you have already been doing this, but, you know, just to call out that we are no longer having the county ETR species list attached and highlighted. Yay, no one has to do that. You will insert the county website link here, and just make sure you are updating the county, that you're not leaving it like county, right? So that the email address isn't just county. You want to make sure you're copy and pasting that as a live link. that really helps out. And then just a side note, we've seen some red flags recently where just make sure you leave this did not in cyan or blue, right? So this is the only part of the red flag that when you submit it should be left in that blue color, because SAM does the confidential database check to determine did or did not. Sometimes people will highlight that section yellow, which we appreciate because it calls it out. However, I would say please do not do that, because if you have just some minor edits that I can just go in and, minor fixes, and I can select did or did not and, delete one of those and change it to black text, then I cannot do that if you have it highlighted, but I can do it if you just leave it as did not in that blue color. So the blue is enough of a call out for us to realize that we need to add it. And, we appreciate the highlight, but really we don't need it. So, but that is the only portion. We've seen some red flags recently that have had other text within the document in different colors. Just to make sure that, this is really the only portion of the red flag that should have a different location. Okay. I think that is a majority of the changes from the template. Oh, does anyone want to chime in?
I'd like to, Nicole. This is Ryan.
Yeah.
I put in the chat. What about INDOT personnel like me with access to those layers? Do you want us to still? I mean, I'm fine with keeping them blue, but we'll know.
Maybe for the sake of just continuity, we just leave it as blue, did not. But if you want to update it, like if you want to update to did or did not and leave it in that cyan color, we could just confirm or double check it. And that way we're just making sure we're doing it the same way for each one. Marlene, do you have?
That sounds perfect.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me. I was just asking. So yeah, well, so for consistency and you guys looking at the document the same way, we'll just keep her cyan.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I think that's the majority of the template. So just start using that template. It is on our website. The link is to the Word document, so you can use that right away. And if any questions or concerns pop up, just let us know. And now the RFI template itself, or I shouldn't say template, the RFI guidance. This did have more updates. And we really do listen to your feedback. So, people will send questions and concerns and comments to the inbox, and we kind of stage it away for later discussion, but we keep a running tab of things that pop up and that need clarification. And so whenever we do these updates, we really appreciate the feedback that we receive, because it does help us go in and look at this with like a new set of eyes. So as you go through, please, let us know if there's something that needs to be updated. It might not happen right away, but it does make it onto a listing that we do reference. So just to go through some of the items that have changed and been updated, we just expanded a little bit of this generic text from the template saying that, or the guidance regarding location description information, additional clarification on if you have a very long or large project, adding that description of along the northern portion of the project, or at this intersection or near this intersection. Just some additional guidance on location is really helpful to the reviewer. We added or updated our guidance language for pipelines, or sorry, not updated, but provide some clarification. Pipelines are the only feature that have a specific distance tied to them. So if you are within 0.05 mile of a pipeline, that benchmark is only for that feature. It shouldn't really be applied to other portions of the red flag. And we kind of discussed this in the red flag training, but sometimes we see that 0.05 kind of wiggling into other parts of determinations, and you just want to make sure that that pipeline, that's the only designation or guidance that we provide for distance. We updated the text for railroads. If you do need to coordinate that standard coordination will occur with INDOT utilities and railroads by the project management team or their consultant no later than RFC date. And that was just kind of feedback from operations of how coordination does occur. And so we're updating that language. Some other text. So again, this is taken directly from the new template as additional language. And we updated our recommendation in the water resources to say that, a Waters of the U.S. report is recommended based on mapped features. So we're really calling out that, the RFI is a map-based initial glance of the project, and that coordination with INDOT ESD College A waterway permitting will occur. But if you have potentially unmapped resources, or later you get out to the field and you find something that's of concern, you would want to do that coordination with EWPO. So hopefully this will help just kind of reinstate that the red flag is a desktop review on those items. Let me scroll back up for a second and see if I missed anything. And then some larger items were within the hazmat section. So if in the hazmat section, if a site has active or ongoing remediation or monitoring activities, then coordination with IDEM PM should occur before RFC. And coordination should occur to allow enough time for additional activities if it's requested. We also updated our language, or our standard language. If you have potential contamination within your project area, we developed a new flow chart, and I'll try to pull that up. It's in Appendix G, and that can kind of be used for contamination that is known to be present in the right-of-way, and can maybe provide some guidance. So in the SAM manual in Appendix G, we now have the recommended management of potential or known contamination, which is generally from the red flag, and the flow chart for contamination that you just kind of stumble upon during your construction activities. That flow chart is also in appendix, in this appendix as well. So you have both now. So this one, the first one in Appendix G, kind of follows along with the RFI recommendations and provides some guidance on next steps and when to report things and who to notify. And the second flow chart is for contamination or tanks, orphan tanks that you might find during your work. So hopefully, we hope that that really comes in handy and helps clarify some process items. Okay, looks like Marlene got that question. The other item, so a few months ago in one of our virtual chats, we indicated that if you have an ERC site or an institutional control site that requires coordination, that you should reach out to Lynette Schroe. And poor Lynette, she got so many emails that I think, it was good guidance at the time. It set us on the right path. But through that experience and through the number of emails that Lynette was getting, we've determined that it's better to have just that generic institutional controls email address. So, if you have a red flag that still has Lynette's name on it, don't worry about it. We will either update it to this new email address that you should be sending requests to, or or you could change it, but don't panic if you still have Lynette's name in there. But this will provide a little bit more streamlined communication with IDEM and not so burdensome on Lynette, because she was kind of the filter for those. You want the refer to Appendix G in the RFI draft? Yes. So that statement, thank you, Sarah. So that statement is our new language. You'll see it kind of used throughout the other examples, but the direct reference to Appendix G in the SAM manual, because we kind of think it definitely, when those recommendations go down into the recommendation section, it helps provide that clarification and that point of saying, okay, if you're running into questions, go to Appendix G first. Look at that guidance first, and then we can discuss additional items if needed. But that's kind of the main tool to provide guidance on those sites. Okay, and then we did add some additional information and text regarding confined feeding operations, or CFOs. So in addition to environmental impacts, proposed MOT should be considered for confined feeding operations. And if you have a historical CFO near your project area in close proximity, you know, we might need to have a little bit more communication with SAM, or even a site visit to make sure that there are no lagoons or historical activities that might affect the project. Okay, and then we do have some additional information about e-waste and auto salvage yard sites. So that's added text, added guidance to the document. And again, you know, I think the main takeaway from the hazmat site, or from the hazmat section, is that each site is unique, each construction project is unique. So we need to make sure that we're making good evaluations from the virtual file cabinet. And we do want to say that if you have questions, you know, please reach out to INDOT SAM. However, I would say that please make sure you're checking with your own internal resources and coworkers first to evaluate a site. And then bring, if there are additional questions or something can't be worked out, or addition, or if an item can't be worked out internally, then to reach out to INDOT SAM. But we've had some very basic questions that have come in that probably could have been answered by someone in your own firm first. So definitely, you know, try to get those resources first, and then if you need to, definitely reach out to SAM. But we will encourage you to reach out among those parties that are also developing red flags. So I got some questions. Flowchart mentions INDOT owned right-of-way. Are procedures different for right-of-way to be acquired? And then adding to Colin's question, the flowchart states that right-of-way acquisition and wetland stream impacts do not warrant a full RFI, and a limited RFI is sufficient. So I think those are two different questions. So when we're talking about, and make sure I'm answering your guys' questions correctly, when we are talking about contamination that is discovered in INDOT owned right-of-way, so this is where you are out there, you are excavating, you're doing your sidewalk install, and you hit an orphan USD, and you know, hopefully there's no product in it, but you hit a USD, you encounter some contamination, soil or groundwater contamination that was unknown. It was not identified in the RFI stage, right? Because we can't find every historical gas station or every point of contamination that will be encountered during a project. So the initial flow chart that was provided in Appendix G, this INDOT owned right-of-way, is for contamination that you were not expecting. What do you do, right? So when you run into that petroleum odor, you have staining, you have sheen, you have a tank, this gives you guidance on who to contact, how to address it, and how to go about, you know, just providing step-by-step kind of guidance and getting SAM involved in that process as well. When to notify IDEM, how to do the sampling, getting with us, and we kind of assist with the review of the scope of work or the activities and stuff like that. Now the new flow chart, and Marlene and Chad, this is a new flow chart, so let me know if I'm missing anything from it, but this new flow chart is more geared towards those sites that are called out in the red flag as having the potential for contamination. So we identified them in the red flag. We're saying, oh, your plume, your soil extents off of this gas station, extend to 5 feet into our project area. And what do we do? How do we account for that? And so this flow chart is more for those sites that were identified in the red flag and need additional clarification of okay, what's our next step? You know, we are going to run into contamination. What do we do? So we have the potential, which, you know, where we say you may encounter something. It looks like there's that potential, or sites that, oh yeah, you're going to run into something. This plume, this 1,4-dioxin plume, is within your project area, and it's within the water, you know, the water table, and you are going down 20 feet. You know, you're going to hit it. So that's the difference. Marlene, Chad, anything to add on the flow chart or the questions, if I have these correct?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. Okay, so my question was with regards to the PCE elevated CE because of right-of-way or waters. So, okay, so you're talking about the limited RFI flow chart, not the contamination in the right-of-way flow chart, if I have that correct. Let's hold off on that for just a quick minute, and we'll come back to that. Let me finish. Oh no, you're fine. You're totally fine. We've got a lot of flow charts. That's no problem. Let me hit pause on that, and we can come back to that here in a second. Okay. All right. So I think that was everything. So anyone that's had a chance to review the STAM manual, any questions or items that are kind of popping up or issues? No? Okay. All right. So let's, let me see if a discussion of the limited RFI would fit in here. Okay, let's go back to the limited RFI question. So yeah, so we have a flow chart in Appendix C for when a limited RFI should be completed. And dominantly, you want to think about what the role of the project is and why you're doing a red flag. So if the project is a PCE project with no excavation, so we're talking, and this is a good segue, well, okay, we'll just segue into our RFI triage that we wanted to talk about. So I'll give this as an example. On earlier this week, Chad and Marlene and I sat down and we went through a bunch of the red flags that we have in our queue, because we've been seeing red flags popping up that don't appear to have been warranted. And so we kind of did a quick triage and perhaps, you know, and we sent out some emails. But if you have a red flag that say it's a bridge deck overlay with guardrail replacement, and that falls under the PCE, and there's seemingly no description in the narrative about work occurring in the waterway or permitting being required, then an RFI would not be needed. And so there were several that popped up that were essentially exactly that category, where we had a bridge deck overlay, a little bit of approach work, some slabs being worked on, excavation to 8 to 12 inches, and, you know, some guardrail. And so we sent those back and we were asking, okay, provide us with the information about why this, you know, why you need to do a waters report if you're saying you're not doing any work within the waterway, you know. So just making sure that you are providing us, Sam, with the details of your project to justify the level of the document. So that's kind of to talk about that RFI triage portion that we did. And we are hopefully going to continue to do that, to just catch these red flags that may not necessarily be needed at that time, and we can kind of save some time and energy. We have a hand up. I can't say who it is, but
it's me, Nicole, Sarah.
Okay, awesome.
I just kind of bouncing off of what you just were talking about. I think we got an email or two back for those types of RFIs. And I think for one or two of them, we're doing placement of riprap in the waterway. It might not be under the ordinary high water mark. And is that when, I mean, is placement of riprap, is that enough for us to do an RFI? Just because we're thinking with, since we look at impaired streams in the RFI, I mean, that's an important part that then gets translated commitments for construction if there's like E. coli in the stream and stuff like that. So I guess if we have placement of riprap, can we then go forward with doing an RFI?
So Marlene, let me know if I'm answering this correctly, because we had a discussion about that on Monday, and it depends, right? So some of the placement of the riprap that we were seeing was turnouts, and which didn't necessarily equate to work occurring in the waterway. So if you're doing riprap, make sure it's going to be in the waterway and going to trigger a permitting or something like that. And because not just the word riprap or just the use of riprap would not necessarily say yes, a red flag is needed. Now, Marlene, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's it. We were seeing a lot with drainage turnouts that weren't close to the water, and I think that's why we sent some of them back. But I think we just need a little bit of clarification within the project description, because we just have some questions as to whether permitting really needed to be done.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, we'll just make sure when we're doing those, we look at that better and incorporate that clarification into the description so that there's no question on your guys' end.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't want to say that you shouldn't be doing red flags for these at all. It's just, if you're going to do a red flag, make sure you're providing that justification or that explanation of it. So yeah, no, appreciate it. Okay, so now let me go back. Brock, did I answer your question, or am I still answering your question? Sorry.
I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Okay.
So essentially, it regards whether or not the PC is being used or if the CE1 plus, and generally the thought is it appears to be that a full RFI is generally considered what's expected in CE1 plus. However, this flow chart indicates that if it would only be a full RFI because of right-of-way acquisition or because of waters or because of 106, and I don't know that 106 ever comes into play, but that a limited RFI would be sufficient. And so like, for example, when we acquire right-of-way, we got to be very conscious of managed lands to see if we have a 4F resource, and obviously if we have a water resource impact, where the water layers are beneficial. So I guess I'm confused on what the flow chart is telling us and why it is telling us that an LRFI is sufficient.
Well, I think maybe the confusion is when we say ecology, we're referring to bats and
that
ETR
would
species.
that
we're not
that
referring
right.
to the waters. We're not referring
Okay.
to the water section. We're referring only to the natural resources like the ETR species.
I gotcha.
Okay. So that may be part of the confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, we just call it ecology when we submit our water reports. We're putting it in the ecology folder. So I was thinking along the wrong wavelength there. What about the right-of-way? So if right-of-way is needed, but that's the only reason it's in a CE1, or are we supposed to only be submitting an LRFI?
So for right-of-way as well, it kind of depends on what your scope of the project is. So if you're doing ADA curb ramp work and you have additional right-of-way acquisition that would elevate you to a higher document level, but it's just because of that right-of-way acquisition, then a full red flag for HMA overlay with ADA curb ramps is not necessarily warranted. That you can do a limited RFI even with the additional right-of-way based on kind of the framework of your project. And that's kind of really where we see right-of-way the most coming into play with those tricky, do I do a full right of RFI or do I do a limited? It tends to be with either those sign installs or those HMA overlay ADA curb ramps, where maybe you're acquiring additional right-of-way because of the extent of the project or some additional nuances. But you want to fall back to what is kind of, I always ask myself, what is the purpose of this project? What's the focus of that project? And could a limited RFI be more beneficial in place of a full red flag, where you have the 10-mile HMA overlay stretch and you're looking at every water resource is wanting to do a waters report when just because of the right-of-way acquisition. Does that help out, Brock?
Yeah, I guess it's not, my view on it is that when, we are supposed to be doing the RFI as early in the process as we can so that we understand how the environmental is going to proceed. And sometimes, we're talking about needing to do the RFI versus LRFI versus no RFI based on the the specific work type, the specific impacts, as if those things are already known, and I'm not sure that they necessarily are. And it seems like the RFI, the purpose of the RFI should be to, kind of as a forewarning of what's out there, and maybe not be so impact-based, just resource-based. And so I guess I feel like I'm not, we could be doing a limited RFI or no RFI when some of those resources and knowing what's out there is beneficial and could inform the project as the project develops or if something changes. And so that, especially when it comes to right-of-way acquisition, I don't know. I'm just not sure that the RFI is serving the purposes of NEPA versus the RFI. I don't know, like why these specific delineations are being made between which type of RFI, if it's for the purpose of NEPA or for the purpose of the workload, I guess. So that's the concern.
I think that's just a larger issue that we've been dealing with for a long time, and probably this isn't the best format to discuss those things. So
yeah, I understand.
I mean, we can talk about that separately. So, but because of the workload and because of the project schedules, we've had to streamline as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I, to hit on Marlene's point as well, I don't think you're alone, Brock. There is confusion on it, and maybe that would be a good virtual chat topic on our next one or something like that, to kind of discuss that more, or that flow chart or that application. So definitely, let us know if that would be something you'd want to talk individually, or if everyone on here wants to talk about that at our next one. We can definitely discuss that more. Okay, so, oh, and I would also say, and maybe this isn't the point, maybe we should just drop it, but I was going to say, you could, remember that the limited RFI, you can choose to do other sections. So if you think you are going to have additional coordination or something that's going to be problematic for a project, you can always say that, we're evaluating the infrastructure as well because of this section. It can be it can be flexible as well, so that you're not just dropping things out. You could add them if needed, but there is a focus on those limited, more of the hazmat and ecology. So I would just throw that out there, but we can talk about that later. Okay. So, okay, we only have a little bit of time left. let me hit these 2 slides and then we can do some more questions, and we can just kind of chit chat afterwards if that's okay. So the red flag training, hopefully everyone who participated, thank you for participating. We hope it was beneficial. And please note that we are converting that training into a not university class. So if you have things that you think need to be like removed from it or added, please let us know now, because we are developing that training, and feedback now would be appreciated. So definitely let us know. We're going to post the recording of the training to YouTube. I hope in the next week or so to get that done, and there will be a listserv announcement will be provided. So we're going to be on YouTube. It's scary. And then GIS instructions. Several people reached out for some sort of GIS instruction manual or guidance for how to map project areas. And we are planning on kind of scrubbing that up, because I sent it out to people who asked individually. However, the GIS instructions that we have are for internal employees, which isn't a big deal, but there are some portions of that guidance document that you would just have to ignore, or realize that you go to a different location to get your map than we do. So we're planning on kind of scrubbing that up and posting it to our website. Okay. We talked about the RFI triage that was done, just making sure that your narrative really provides all the information and details that is needed. And then, oh, this one's a little bit larger. Coordination with IDEM. So in the red flag, we have text and text saying you need to coordinate with IDEM about this site, either due to it being an active monitoring site or active remediation site, or due to an institutional control or a deed being recorded on the property that means that they have to legally adhere to certain policies when you are doing work in the vicinity of those sites. So we've been, like I said, we've been in contact with IDEM over the past couple months, and they kind of indicated that coordination letters are coming in and they're just kind of flying all over the floor, but more so that they're almost these early coordination letters where they're large packages of information with construction figures attached or construction drawings, and they're not really providing guidance to IDEM as to what is actually being requested. So we just want to make sure that when you are reaching out to IDEM in order to obtain additional information or in order to determine if additional coordination would be requested by IDEM, then you do so in a meaningful and direct manner. You're giving them the hazmat site that is the concern. You're calling out that specific site. You are not just giving them a construction diagram. Those are difficult to review, especially if you're not familiar with them. And that's not really the purpose of the coordination, is to provide them with your construction diagram. So just make sure that you're thinking about when you make a request to IDEM, you're thinking about the intent and what you want accomplished. You want from IDEM, do they want to coordinate before the project? Do they have any additional information that they can provide? Are there any issues with the ERC or any things that need to be followed in the project? So that's kind of the takeaway from this one. We are going to have 4 red flags that have the recommendation to coordinate with IDEM. Sam is going to develop some language to provide an email response back to the document preparer saying, to how to reach out to IDEM and kind of coordinate and having that general text. So just keep an eye out for that. We're developing it. You will start to see it on emails, but that will maybe help direct some of the coordination questions and help you get responses back in a timely manner. Because if IDEM gets a request and they don't know what to do with it, or they're like, you're doing 10 miles of project, what hazmat site do you want me to look at specifically? Then you'll get a better response and a quicker response back as well. So hopefully that will help out, and we can touch base on this in additional virtual chats as well if needed. Okay, so I saw text flying. I guess, you know, at this point, if anyone has any questions or wants to discuss things further, we are here. And if, you know, if you need to sign off, feel free to do so. Thank you for joining us. And again, congratulations, Marlene. So let's see. Okay, so I just saw something from Chad and I see a hand. So let's do Chad's real quick. Can you touch base on expectations for expedited review requests? Yes, so there is, sorry, refocusing. We added new language, which was provided in our RFI training, that when you request an expedited review, if there is that need, Sam is asking that the revisions be returned to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, within 3 days of receiving the revised or the reviewed report. We have been having instances where there have been expedited review requests, which we're happy to accommodate. We know that we have a backlog. We're happy to help out with that, and we will do our best to do it. But those reviews would then be kind of sat on sometimes for upwards, I think one of them was a couple weeks to return that back to us. That was an expedited review. And so we're really trying to be cognizant of the other reports that are in our queue and to make sure that we, you know, are addressing and reviewing those reports. And if you have an expedited, we want to help you out. We're doing our best to help you out, but we just want to make sure that they come back in a timely manner. So 3 days, and if they take longer than 3 days, there is the potential for a negative PSCS evaluation with that. And that's kind of something that we've started implementing. Okay, so I see a lot of chats. Whoever had their hand up, do you still want to have a question?
Nicole, I think I responded to, at least in some fashion,
Awesome.
to a lot of these questions. If I, you know, if I missed something, I think I kind of lost control of answering some of these. So, you know, if I missed something, let us know if I didn't answer it clearly enough, and we'll just start at the bottom and go from there.
I'll go ahead and stop the recording at this time too, if that's okay with everyone. I'm going to say yes. Let's go ahead and stop recording.